Hey everybody, Wally Renee here from the MOD Institute. Super pumped to show you the way that I've been finishing my appliances and honestly almost everything else that I print, from prosthetics to dentures and pretty much anything. I use the candy coating technique as outlined in my ebook. By the way, check it out. Go to modinstitute.com and download that free resource. But anyway, I like to print my occlusal appliances nearly vertical, and that way I could keep the supports along the buccal and facial flange and not have any supports on my occlusal contact areas and critical points that I design during my fabrication process and design process of my appliance. Here we're using Night Guard Flex. Now you could use Keystone Soft or you could use, Smile Guard. This universally applies. So here we nested using Raywear Cloud. Peel away support, super easy. Again, this is something that I think is essential to a nice appliance, is not having giant supports on the occlusal surface, especially in this instance where I built in a full style Michigan splint with cuspid rise, posterior disclusion, and anterior guidance. Here we have a little jar of Night Guard Flex, a jar of glycerin, brand new glycerin, and an empty vat, an empty tray. And here we are now removing the excess resin right off the build plate. It likes to puddle in essential areas like the cuss tips and sizal edges and things like that. So you have to make sure you remove all the material. I know it sounds counterintuitive here because we're going to eventually be coating it again with material, but trust me, don't skip this step or else you'll have fit issues. Get it clean. 98% pure, unadulterated alcohol here, not recycled. You don't want to use dirty alcohol. You will basically cloud your product. Now I'm going to dry it. You have to dry it before you reapply the candy coating. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to air dry it. You could use warm air, heated air. Just be careful it's not too hot. Don't want to warp your appliance. These are thermoplastics. And then wait 5 minutes. Make sure all the alcohol is evaporated. Some people use a very low temp drying oven. That also helps as well. So here, TikTok, we're going to just wait 5 minutes. Okay, so now that it's been 5 minutes, we are going to, in a controlled manner, and this is going to sound crazy, we're going to reapply resin to this appliance. Now, the reason why we're doing this is to create a uniform kind of glaze coat. And so I'm going to dip this brush. This is a special brush that I use that doesn't shed. And you get just a little bit on. You don't need much. Please don't let it pool. And what you're going to do is you're going to paint on a super thin coat of the original resin. Don't use any other resin. You want to use the resin you printed with. In this case, this would be Night Guard Flex. And I'm coating both surfaces, the intaglio and also the occluding surfaces, with a ultra thin coat. I mean, we're talking, 50 microns or less. It's just a very thin coat of resin. And what it's doing is it's filling in all the print lines, any kind of irregularities that you would have in your print. It's also creating this beautiful, optically clear glaze coat on the appliance. It's going to be like basically polished ice here at the end. So we have this and we're ready to go into the curing unit. So again, I'm using the Sprint Ray curing unit here, which is the ProCure 2. If you're using other things, you could use the Otoflash or any other type of curing unit. I think follow your manufacturer's recommended cure for this. One thing I like to do before I pop it in the cure unit is just give it a little zap with a curing light, a handheld light. Make sure you have a 385 bulb in that light. Ivoclar Blue Phase has one, Velo has one. You just want to make sure that you have a little tack. This way it's not so sticky when you put it in the curing unit where you could damage your curing unit. And just to be safe, I also do the precaution of basically putting it in another kind of Tupperware container. So here's the ProCure 2. I'm going to go ahead and drop it into a Tupperware container that is clear, that does not block UV light or block blue wavelengths of light either. And I'm just going to plop it in there. And usually, depending on your curing unit, you might have to flip it, but the ProCure has lights on both sides. And we're going to go for the full cure in this thing. So about 8 minutes here. We're going to pull it out and we're going to transfer it to a glycerin jar here. This is a little flat kind of petri dish looking thing that has fresh vegetable glycerin. You could get it by the gallon. It's super inexpensive, food grade vegetable glycerin. And you drop it right into this, submerge it completely. You don't want any bit that is out of the glycerin, and you're going to go ahead and cure it again. Now, you want to make sure you get this outer layer cured properly. So I go ahead and use the full curing time. I don't want to have any concerns about having a poorly cured outer layer here. And you might say, well, you're curing it twice. That's going to make it potentially brittle. It takes a lot more than double curing to make a material brittle in this instance. And so what we're going to do is now we have a ultra slick, smooth, shiny surface. Wash it with soap and water. Use Dawn soap. It's the best. That's going to eliminate any taste, any bad chemical, residual monomer, and you have a lifelike, beautiful, smooth as glass appliance that's safe to touch, safe to put in the mouth. It doesn't taste bad. There's no residual odor. There's no residual taste. It's going to fit perfectly, and it's going to be, more importantly, smooth and functional, and it's going to be something that you could be proud of. Now, we do have studies that show that the outer layer cured in glycerin has better Vickers hardness, better color stability, better wear resistance. And so this is something that I think is super cool, easy to do, way better than polishing these things, guys. I mean, you could have a team member sit there and polish this thing all day long and it won't look this good. More importantly, it stays looking good. Definitely stain resistant outer surface here. So anyway, I hope this helps. This is also kind of how I finish nearly everything that I print. Think differently. We're not dealing with materials from the 80s. We could think differently. All right, guys, I hope that helps save you some time. Come check us out up at the MOD Institute. We'd love to have you down in Charleston.